It is the year 1718. You are standing in the darkest, deepest part of His Majesty's warship, the Orlop Deck. You are below the waterline. There are no windows here. There is no fresh air. The only light comes from the tallow candles in your lantern, sputtering in the stale oxygen. The air is thick enough to chew on. It smells of bilge water, that foul, stagnant soup of rat urine and rotting wood sloshing beneath the floorboards. It smells of unwashed bodies, tar, vinegar, and the metallic tang of old blood that never quite washes out of the oak planks. Up above, on the gun deck, there is glory. There is the roar of cannons, the wind in the sails, the shouting of the captain. But down here in the cockpit, there is only the waiting. You are the ship's surgeon, the sawbones. You are not a soldier, yet you stand on the front line of a different kind of war. Your enemy isn't the French or the Spanish. Your enemy is gangrene. Your enemy is the splinter that turns a man's leg into a bag of pus. Your enemy is time. The ship lurches violently as a broadside is fired. Dust falls from the beams above. You check your table. It is a simple wooden plank, stained black from years of use. You check your bucket of sand. You will need that sand. When the blood starts flowing, this floor becomes as slippery as ice. If you slip while holding the knife, you might cut yourself. And in this filth, a cut means death. You take a swig of rum. It burns, but it steadies the hands. The hatch opens above. A scream echoes down the ladder. The first patient is coming. Let us be clear about who you are. You are not a gentleman. You are not a doctor of physics with a degree from Oxford or Edinburgh. Those men stay on land, in their clean libraries, prescribing pills to wealthy widows. You are a tradesman, a warrant officer. You rank below the lieutenant, below the master, barely above the carpenter. In fact, you and the carpenter are brothers in arms. He patches the ship, you patch the crew. Likely, you started as an apprentice to a barber. You learned to shave beards and pull teeth before you ever learned to set a bone. You learned anatomy not from books, but from the slaughterhouse. You know how to sharpen a razor, how to mix a poultice, and how to ignore a man's pleading. That is your most important qualification. A stomach of iron. The crew fears you more than they fear the enemy. They know that if they are dragged down to the Orlop, they are entering a torture chamber. There is no anesthesia here, no ether, no chloroform. Those mercies are 100 years in the future. There is only a leather strap to bite on, a shot of rum to dull the mind, and you are the judge, jury, and executioner of their limbs. And you are paid a pittance for it, £2 a month, plus a few pennies deducted from the sailor's wages. You are a mechanic of flesh, working in the dark, praying that your work holds together long enough to reach port. Look at your chest of instruments. It is a box of horrors disguised as tools of healing. First, the Catling, a double-edged, pointed knife used for one thing only, slicing through muscle and flesh in a single circular motion. It must be razor sharp. If it is dull, it tears the meat, and a torn wound never heals. Next, the tenaculum, a small curved hook like a fish hook. You use it to fish around inside a raw stump, searching for the severed artery so you can tie it off. Then the trephine, a cylindrical drill. If a man takes a blow to the head and his skull is crushed, you use this to bore a hole in his head to relieve the pressure on the brain. Most die anyway. And finally, the capital saw, heavy, serrated, rusty. It looks like something you would use to fell a tree. In a way, you do. You shout for your assistant, the loblolly boy. He is not a nurse. He is usually a failed sailor, or a boy too young to haul ropes, or simply the most useless man on the ship. His job is to hold the patient down. That is all. He needs strong arms and no empathy. Get the sand, you bark. He scatters the grit across the floor. Get the tub. He places a wooden tub filled with sawdust under the table. To catch the falling parts, the men carry the patient in. He is a gunner's mate. His shin is shattered by a cannonball splinter. The bone is sticking out, white against the red ruin of his leg. He is screaming for his mother. You don't look at his face. If you look at his face, you hesitate. And if you hesitate, he dies. Speed is your only mercy. A good surgeon can remove a leg in 3 minutes. A great one can do it in 2. Any longer and the patient dies of shock on the table. You strip the man naked from the waist down. You take the tourniquet, a canvas strap with a wooden screw, and wrap it around his thigh. You twist the screw. You twist it until his leg turns the color of marble. The screaming gets louder. The loblolly boy and 3 other sailors pin him to the table. "Hold him!" you roar. You pick up the knife. You don't slice, you sweep. One continuous, brutal circle around the leg, cutting through skin and fat. The man thrashes so hard the table shakes. You cut deeper through the muscle until you hit the bone. The blood is dark and heavy, oozing despite the tourniquet. Now the retractor. You pull the flesh back to expose the bone higher up. This is crucial. You must cut the bone shorter than the flesh, so the meat can cover the stump later. If the bone sticks out, it will rot. You drop the knife. You pick up the saw. This is the sound every sailor has nightmares about. RRR rip. RRR rip. The teeth bite into the femur. It is hard work. You have to put your shoulder into it. Bone dust flies into the air, mixing with the sweat on your face. You saw frantically. The man has stopped screaming. He is just making a low, guttural gurgling sound. Snap. The leg comes free. The loblolly boy catches it and tosses it into the tub. It lands with a wet thud among the sawdust. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You are making good time. The leg is gone, but the battle isn't over. You loosen the tourniquet to check for bleeders. Bright red blood spurts across the room, hitting your apron. You have to stop it. In the old days, they used the cautery irons, red-hot pokers from the galley stove to burn the stump shut. The smell of cooking human meat would fill the entire ship. It worked, but it left a burn that took months to heal. You are a modern man of 1718. You try to use ligatures. You take a silk thread and your hook. You fish for the femoral artery, a slippery, pulsing tube in the bloody mess. You hook it, pull it out, and tie it off. It is delicate work with slippery fingers in bad light. Once the bleeding stops, you cannot stitch the skin. The wound is too dirty. If you sew it up, the infection will fester inside and kill him in 3 days. You must leave it open. You slap a handful of lint onto the raw stump. Then you cover it with oakum, old, picked-apart rope fibers soaked in turpentine and vinegar. It stings like hellfire. The patient, who had passed out, wakes up screaming again. "Take him away," you order. They drag him off to a hammock in the sick bay. You wipe your knife on your trousers. There is no time to wash it. The next man is already coming down the ladder. His arm is hanging by a thread. You take another drink of rum. Your hands are steady. The butcher's shop is still open. The battle ends. The cannons go silent. But your work does not. In the days that follow, you trade the saw for the spoon. You walk the rows of hammocks in the lazaretto, the sick bay. The air here is sweet with the smell of gangrene. It is the smell of death. You watch the stumps. If they produce laudable pus, thick, creamy white matter, the man might live. If the wound turns black or green, if it smells like old cheese, the rot has set in. There is nothing you can do but watch the fever take them. But the saw is not the biggest killer. The biggest killer is the ship itself. Scurvy. It starts with loose teeth. Old wounds, scars from years ago, suddenly break open and start bleeding again. You have no lemons. You have no sauerkraut. You watch strong men wither into skeletons. Typhus, carried by the lice that crawl in every seam of every shirt. The bloody flux, dysentery. Men shitting themselves to death until there is nothing left of them but skin and bones. You are the ship surgeon. You are the priest of a god that demands blood. You will cut off 100 limbs in your career. Maybe 10 of them will survive to walk on a wooden peg. You look at your reflection in the darkened glass of the lantern. Your face is gray. Your apron is stiff with dried blood. You are 25 years old, but you look 50. You blow out the candle. The darkness returns to the Orlop Deck. But the smell never leaves.